Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to Ramadan Special, brought to you by EAVA 102.5 FM. This afternoon, I've got three leading ladies with me talking about women in leadership. You're listening to Mahmouda Duke presenting Leading Ladies this gorgeous Friday afternoon. If you want to engage with us, please call us on 0116 212 9324 or text on 07450 925 084. You're listening to Ramadan Special on EAVA 102.5 FM. Now, turning to the guests who I have in the studio talking about women in leadership. I've got Sandra Pollock.
Hello.
I have Karen Rothery.
Hello.
And I have Nazrin Eesa.
Hello.
So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my guests before I bring them in to talk to you about their role and their experience of women in leadership. I'm going to start with Nazrin on my right. Nazrin has, I better put my specs on because I can't read without them. So Nazrin has over 15 years experience of working with leaders in a variety of settings, ranging from the charity, public and higher education sectors. She has a wealth of experience designing and delivering organisational development programmes, and her most recent success was the launch of the University of Leicester's first Women's Leadership Programme. This supports women across the university to discover their leadership strengths and create a community of networks for other women across the university. Her skills include being a qualified executive coach and organisational development practitioner. So those are just some of your highlights, Nazrin. I think I'd have been here all day if I told everybody everything about you. I've got, in the middle, I've got Karen Rothery. Karen is an experienced chief executive who has a dual career profile. She spent the first 24 years of her career in the clothing industry. She went back to full-time education with a view to a change of career to sport, and what better place to do that but Loughborough University. She began as a commercial director with England Netball before becoming the CEO of the British Universities and Colleges Sport, the governing body for university sport in the UK. In September 2015, Karen became the CEO of Surrey Sports Park and was appointed CEO of Leicestershire County Cricket Club at the start of the year, taking office in April. So she's been in her post for 6 weeks. She's one of only two women in the country to be a CEO of a first-class county cricket club. So she's very unique in that regard. Karen describes herself as an unashamed feminist, and she's an experienced non-executive director. We'll come back to that, Karen, in a moment. And Sandra Pollock. Sandra is no stranger to EAVA FM. She presents on EAVA FM on a regular basis. So today, thank you, Sandra, for joining me on the other side.
It's good to be on the other side.
And I'm sure this is quite nerve-wracking for me, actually, to have a presenter on the other side. But hey, Sandra Pollock is a multi-award-winning director with over 30 years' experience in leadership, management, people development, and organisational change. She runs 2 companies, is an author, radio and TV presenter, and founder of the East Midlands Women's Awards. Sandra works with CEOs, managing directors, and senior management teams of organisations to help them develop effective use of their people and their own management skills to grow their businesses and to improve profits. Sandra has an MA from the University of Leicester. She's a qualified strategic business coach and trainer. Her awards, of which there are many, but I've selected 2, include Lifetime Achievement Awards from Leicestershire Asian Business Association in 2014 and WOW, which is Women of the World Award in 2017. So congratulations on those.
You.
And welcome to all of you to Leading Ladies. I'm really delighted to have you here. Now, leadership for women is quite a interesting topic, I would say. And I'm going to start with Karen over here. So Karen, you are... Well, you're not a stranger to Leicester, but you are new to Leicestershire in the sense that you are new to the Leicestershire County Cricket Club. So can you tell us about how you ended up being CEO of this cricket club?
Well, it's quite a long story, and I'll try and précis it a little. I grew up in Enderby in Leicestershire and left at 18 to go to university, and always wanted to work in industry or manufacturing or something that was meaningful, not teaching or accountancy, which is where we were being directed to when I left university in the late 70s.
Not that that's not meaningful.
No, not that it's not meaningful, but for me, I wanted to do something that was about making a difference within the economy. So I had a first career in the clothing industry, which, as you said before, lasted 24 years. But then I was very interested in sport. And at the point at which the organisation I was working for wanted me to downsize. I was running a £30 million turnover lingerie business in Nottingham. And half of my team had to transfer their skills to offshore manufacturers, and then we lost them. And that was a terrible time to go through. So I decided I couldn't do it any longer. And went back to university, did the Masters in Sport and Leisure Management at Loughborough University, because Seb Coe had taken over as the lead agent on the Olympics bid, and I always thought we'd get it, so I wanted to be part of the adventure. So I went into netball, had 3 years there, went into university sport, and did get involved in the Olympics by hosting the test event in the Olympic Stadium, which was incredible. 46,000 people in the stadium.
That must have been
It
amazing.
was amazing. And then went to Surrey Sports Park at the University of Surrey, and then the opportunity came up. I wasn't really looking, but a feed kept coming up on my LinkedIn timeline that Leicestershire County Cricket Club were looking for a CEO.
So that was serendipity.
It was. We were driving back from Cornwall. I said to my husband, "What do you think?" And he said, "Well, give them the ring and see what happens."
And are you a cricket fan? Are you?
Yeah.
What was the attraction to Leicestershire County Cricket Club?
Yeah, well, of course Leicestershire because I grew up here. But yeah, I'm a cricket fan. My husband plays. We watch cricket internationally, so we've been to Australia and South Africa and all over the UK watching cricket. So yes, I'm a general sports fan, but cricket in particular is a love of mine. And it just seemed like the right thing to do. But I wasn't sure. So when I first called...
Why weren't you sure, Karen?
Well, because when I first had a little look at Leicestershire County Cricket Club, there were almost no women, apart from your good self, as an advisor to the board at that point. And in cricket in general, there are very few women. There's one other CEO at Nottinghamshire, Lisa Pursehouse. And she has come up through the ranks via the commercial side of the business. So there were no other externally appointed women in the whole world of cricket. So it just seemed like a big step.
It was very brave.
Yes, I've done a few brave things in my life.
Well, I was going to say, giving up, changing careers after 24 years is incredibly brave.
Yeah, but people said to me, "Gosh, that's brave," and what they really meant was, "You're a bit crazy," because it did feel like a strange move, but it just felt right to me. And actually going back to university in my early 40s and paying for it myself, I saw as an investment in the rest of my career. And so for me, it just made perfect logical sense. But for others, I think it might have felt like a crazy move. I was lucky. I had moved back to the Midlands. I had bought my own house. I could afford to do it. I'd got some money to see me through. And I appreciate that for many women, that kind of a bold move is a hard one to achieve.
Yes.
So I was lucky. I do ascribe it to
So your
luck.
risk was minimised in that respect.
Yeah.
So coming back to Leicestershire, you said you had a look at the website, and yes, it's a very male-dominated environment. So were you put off at all in applying, or did you think, well, it doesn't matter, I'm a woman, and I'll still go for it?
I quite like the look of it, and I have a bit of a determined side that I think has stood me in good stead throughout my career, and I just, first of all, I thought cricket needs more women, so why shouldn't I go for it?
Well, absolutely, and I'm nodding my head here.
And we really do need more women. That's just a fact. And so I just thought it just seemed like the right time in my career, the right opportunity for me, and it just felt right. So I thought I'm gonna go for it.
And did it feel like coming home, because you are a Leicestershire girl, aren't you?
It does a bit. That's
You're hesitating.
I am a bit because my father always wanted to go back to the northeast, and we all said that's crazy. You should never go back. But actually, it did feel like coming home. And my husband and I met when we were both living in Leicestershire 12 years ago. We had always planned to come back here at some point. And so actually, it was just serendipity, I suppose. And we're both very, very happy to be back.
And welcome back. Well, it's great,
Yes.
absolutely great. As a room full of women, I'm sure you'll all agree with me. It's
Yes,
fantastic
Leicester's
to
fabulous,
have
yes.
a female CEO of a county cricket club and to be
Definitely.
breaking those ceilings. And you're the first for Leicestershire in 140 years, which is phenomenal. And well done to Leicestershire
Absolutely.
for actually, recognising and being
Yes.
forward thinking and in taking that step.
And maybe your presence will actually allow other women and girls to think that this is something they can do. They can get involved.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I think that's right. I think sport in general is a fairly inaccessible place for women to be leaders. There are very few high-profile leaders across the sector. Lisa Wainwright has just taken on the CEO position at the Sport and Recreation Alliance. Of course, Liz Nichol has just stood down, or is just standing down from UK Sport. Sue Campbell is at the FA, and there are a few others, but really not very many.
And we've got Susan Whelan here as well.
Of course, yes. And so let's hear it for Leicester, supporting the
absolutely,
female CEOs.
Absolutely, they're pretty progressive, I think.
Yes, but it is still fairly uncommon.
Yes.
But I think we need to take on those roles and make a difference. And I do think we approach CEO leadership in a different way to guys. I do.
And I mean, we'll come to that in a second in terms of an issue. I'd just like to bring in my other guest, Nasrin. Welcome. Nasrin, you are originally from Blackburn.
Yes.
And you also came to Leicester after, many years. But you do something quite incredible. You, at the university, you've just launched this women's leadership program. So can you tell us a little bit about that program and what it seeks to achieve?
Well, first of all, thanks very much for inviting me. I think it's really great to share my story with, esteemed guests here as well and your listeners. One of the things that I would sort of say to anybody wanting to put a leadership program together in the first instance is that you really need to know your audience and what women want, within any institution. And that was one of the things that I had to do at Leicester. It was, putting the program together, I had to really understand what some of the issues were for women across the institution. And one of the things that came up, and that's come up in research as well, is women need to own their ambition, which is about accepting that they are leaders. One of the things that we tend to do, and I don't want to alienate the men because at this stage, but what we tend to do is discount, almost negate all of the qualities that we bring outside of work. We kind of, as carers, decision makers, role models for our children.
So we are leaders in our home,
Absolutely,
aren't we? And
yes.
actually, I remember one of my guests from last year said, we are the finance minister of the home. We
Yes.
are the, and that's an example of.
Absolutely. All of the skills that we use in the home are transferable.
Yes.
We manage money. We manage teams. We coordinate everyone's activities.
Getting children from here to there.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And making
absolutely.
sure everybody has what they need.
At the right time.
At the right time. They're in the right place. All of these are management skills. We get into our families' heads. We know what makes them happy. We know what makes them sad. We can see by their parents if something is wrong.
So what you're saying is emotional. We have emotional intelligence.
We have emotional
it in
intelligence.
abundance.
We have it in abundance. And it is one of the things that makes good management and brings teams together and makes them work well together. So in terms of being able to achieve, we achieve at home, we can achieve in the workplace, in business, everywhere.
So Nasrin, back to your point, you picked up on these things. So are you saying that women are slow to recognise these skills that they have in themselves, which they are happy to exercise at home, but when it comes to bringing them into the professional environment, they are somewhat reluctant? Is that what the point you're making?
I think it's the lack of recognition in themselves, and it's the low confidence levels that they have because they don't really recognise those as skills. They have, I suppose, views about leadership, which, if you're in a male-dominated environment, you might feel that, to be a leader, you have to mirror those types of behaviours, to become a leader. And that doesn't always sit comfortably with women.
Right.
So they tend to shy away from that. And so what we've tried to do within the programme is really help them understand that there are all different models of leadership. And they don't have to be a certain type of leader. they have to be authentic. And that's really about, understanding yourself, really being true to the values that are important to you, that you can bring to others as well. And also, being comfortable in your skin. I hear many people to say, well, I'm a very different person at home than I am at work. And one of the things about that is being confident in who you are, and that takes time. If you are in a, I agree with, if you're in a male-dominated environment and you're having to then project authority, you may start feeling that you have to borrow behaviours, male-dominated ones, to fit in.
Yes.
So there's a lot of pressure on women. But what we're trying to instill within the programme is to, value your strengths.
And carry on being a woman, and
Absolutely.
actually have the confidence that you can gain that respect just by being who you are.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's the month of Ramadan here, and we don't have to look further than, our Prophet's wife, Khadija. When we look at authentic leadership, I mean, she had that in abundance. When we, focus on her courage, I mean, she was a businesswoman in her own right at a time when it was predominantly male, it was male dominated.
In Saudi Arabia.
In Saudi Arabia, women weren't valued, but she continued in that role even when her father died. She continued with that. She gained a reputation, to be the pious one. And when our prophet needed someone who had courage, who had leadership, she was there when he had his first revelation. She was there to comfort him.
And let's not forget, she was the first Muslim woman.
She was, absolutely. But, testimony to her, when we think about leadership, she embraced it she was resilient. She didn't give up. She was resilient, even when she was faced with so many, and she was strategic. I think that's really important. She knew that in terms of, she understood the power that she had and the position and how she could influence and support the prophet.
And she used it in a very positive way.
Absolutely, she did that. And, so for me, when we're thinking about leadership, I am drawn to her because I think we've kind of gone full circle.
We have.
We
have culturally, because there's a cultural thing there for us as Asian Muslim women,
Yes.
certainly,
Yes.
in terms of that sense of being held back. I think we have an additional barrier as Asian women.
Yes, we do.
That women are. The stereotype is that stay at home and look after the family and all of that, and I'm pleased to say that certainly in Leicester and Leicestershire we see women doing
Absolutely.
an enormous amount. So I'm
Absolutely.
pleased to say that stereotype, I think we've kind of broken that stereotype, but those stereotypes do still exist.
They do.
And we still fight against those. And I've got to say, I myself was told many years ago, well, why don't you stay at home and just have children and bring up children? And I said, well, actually, the Prophet's wife was a businesswoman, and there's nothing wrong with me being a businesswoman, as long as you do it with integrity.
Yes.
And you do it with your your strong Islamic values.
Yeah.
And as long as you do that, then we have a huge role model.
Yeah, we do.
So, I mean, Sandra, if I could bring you in here,
Yeah.
we've got 5 minutes before our commercial break. So, can I bring you in on that in terms of leadership? Because you work with leaders all over the place,
yes.
and all kinds of leaders.
Yeah.
So, what's your experience of women in leadership?
Well, pretty much what has already been said. I think the wonderful thing that was said already by Nazreen is that women need to own their leadership. We are leaders.
And
We
not
need
be
to-
apologetic.
And not be apologetic about it. We do it all the time, actually, without thinking, in the home. But that's because, for some reason, we feel that's a safe space to do it. And we don't see that outside the home is a safe space.
And why is that? I mean, that's really interesting that we're quite comfortable being leaders in our homes. Why are we reluctant?
It is stereotypes, perceptions, and especially in the Western, I can talk about the Western world because that is the predominant ideology at the moment. But in the Western world, we've got this concept that only men can lead. Only men can be strong, only men can make decisions, and only men can influence. And what's not being seen is actually a lot of those men are influenced by the women in their lives, their mothers, their sisters, and their daughters. And the moment a man gets a daughter, that changes a lot of things, a lot of their perception on the male-female interactions. But I think, and if I can bring in this, one of the reasons why I founded these Midlands Women's Awards was to showcase to girls and other women of all ages, because even at my age, I still want to look around and see other women that I can be inspired by. There's so many women already out there they've broken that barrier in their minds. It is a mindset.
Absolutely.
That you can't do those things outside the home.
So if we talk about barriers, sometimes we are our own barriers, our own mindset. And I'm going to just notice that we've got some engagement over here, and I'm going to say hello to some of our listeners. On Facebook Live, we've got Nazmin Leela. Salams, Nazmin, thank you for listening in. I've got Soraya Adam, who's also joined us, so welcome. Thank you for listening in. We also do it in Islam. Only women can lead prayers. There are mosques where women lead the prayer, and it is great. And thank you for that, for sending that in. That's absolutely incredible, and that is amazing. And if we mention as you brought up a mosque issue, Conduit Street Mosque, I've got to say, that's where I go to do my Tarawih prayers, and it is amazing. The space that they have got for women there is phenomenal, and it's an absolute joy. It's not as though women are treated as they can be tucked away in the corner at the back and they don't need much space. There is an incredible space there for women.
And I've worked in women's development for many, many years. And one of the things I've always insisted on is that the environment we create, although we focus on women's development, it is inclusive of men and women.
Yes.
Because unless men realize the skills, the gifts, the abilities that the other half of themselves, and I'm not only talking about this in a marriage relationship situation, I'm talking about in the human being concept relationship. The other half of ourselves has so much to bring. And one of the points, we bring it in a different way. We see the world differently.
So that was a point I was going to ask, actually, and I will probably bring that. We can start the discussion now. But what do women bring to the table? What do women bring to the table? Or if we think about a boardroom, and you've got a boardroom full of men, what do women bring to the table that's different from men, and how does that add value? So,
okay, if we look at it from a business point of view, we as business people, we have customers. All right. And our customers, or we have prospective customers, those prospective customers are both male and female. A man can only see the world from his male perspective.
Well, a man would argue that a woman could only see from
but
her
that's good.
perspective.
Both of those things are good. So if you have a man and a woman looking at whatever topic it is, how are we going to engage our customers? Is this the right service? Is this the right product for the home or for business or whatever? You want a different perspective. You want the different perspectives.
And you can then appeal to both.
So you can then appeal to both. So opening your boardroom, opening your business, and basically opening your mind to hear the views of the other gender actually puts you in a more strong position to create a product, a service that is more likely to be bought by the wider community. And in basic terms, from a business perspective, that is what I think women bring, a different perspective, a different feel, different emotions, different ways of seeing and understanding it.
So we'll pick that up again after the break. You're listening to EAVA FM, Ramadan special on EAVA 102.5 FM. You're listening to Sandra Pollock, Karen Rothery and Nazrin Eesa and Mahmouda Duke here on Leading Ladies, talking about women in leadership. So text us on 07450 925 084. Follow us on Facebook Live, send in your comments, and please do engage with us. That's 07450 925 084, EAVA 102.5 FM, Leading Ladies. See you after the break. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to Ramadan special EAVA 102.5 FM. You are listening to Mahmouda Duke, who has brought you 3 leading ladies. We're talking about women in leadership. And I've got with me Sandra Pollock, I have Karen Rothery, and I have Nazrin Eesa. And I've just remembered my mum telling me to slow down. So you're listening to Ramadan special EAVA 102.5 FM. Please engage with us on Facebook Live. Text in on 07450 925 084. We're talking about issues which affect women in the leadership space. And we're going to be talking about how things such as owning your leadership, owning the fact, things like, the words that we use, being a bossy woman. If you're a bossy woman, is that a bad thing if you're a leader? We're going to talk about some of those things. But before we do that, I just want to share with our listeners an interesting article that I picked up. It was in February 2018. This is a Forbes article. So while the world is evolving, women are still lagging behind when it comes to leadership roles in business. And today, only 26 women are in CEO roles at Fortune 500 companies, making up 5.2%. And even when you look at the Fortune 1000 companies, it's 5.4%. So women are still pushing to get to the top. They're faced with a range of challenges that many of their male CEOs don't face. And they also not just face, but have an understanding of. So it's these issues that are preventing women. So over to my ladies in the studio. Karen, can you talk about some of those challenges that you feel that women face in the leadership space?
Yeah, I can. I think the leadership space is quite unwelcoming for women because it's perceived by many people as somewhere where you need to exhibit certain behaviours. And those are assertiveness and leading from the front and, being a team player and all of those kind of aggressive ways of expressing your skills. But actually, for me, leadership is much more about collaboration and listening and having empathy and encouraging and behaving with an element with a huge amount of integrity and your own personal values. And I don't think that we perhaps focus on those bits of leadership that are really important as much as those go get 'em kind of qualities that generally speaking are more spoken of. And I also think that where women in leadership are used often is as a way of getting more women involved in leadership. And what I mean by that is you can be sat around a board table and an equity issue can come up about women in the organisation, and suddenly it's the women's job to put it right. And I would always challenge that and have frequently challenged that. At my recent university experience, we had a debate about getting more women coming into leadership positions, and it was automatically assumed that the 2 women on the board would address that issue themselves. And I actually said, this is not my problem because I'm a woman, it's our problem
Yes.
because we're a leadership team.
Yes.
And so I think that's a really massive barrier. It's assumed to be our problem, not everybody's problem.
And yet it's a very difficult one, isn't it? Because there's an element of, well, okay, it's been raised about equality and all that kind of thing. And so we've got to do our bit. But actually what's really important, because when that comes up, and I think the equity issue is for women, certainly, we want to be there on merit. And
Yes,
it's, when
absolutely.
the equity issue comes up, it's not about numbers.
No.
It's never about numbers. And I think it's really important that women want to be where they are on merit and not for any other reason. Because
Absolutely.
they've got something to bring to the table.
Yeah, and it's about your personal respect, your self-respect as a woman, to know that your skills, your knowledge, you've worked hard to get there. You've proved that you can do it, and you're there, and not just because
we need 5 women.
We need 5 women, so let's just go and pull 5 women, and then those 5 women aren't listened to, and they're not listened to because they didn't get there on their own merit.
Yeah.
So women definitely don't want that. But I think going back to that there is a perception in the boardroom that, and it's a perception across our community, that women don't have the skills. Which is, it's not true, because if you look at everything women do, we are using those skills. And also there's an element of protectionism where decision makers are concerned, and a lot of people make decisions about protecting their, I want to be here, pulling this salary or this, for as long as I can. If I rock the boat by allowing, a woman in, how will that change? And there's also, I think, some men are scared because they know that women are just as good as men. And there's all sorts of dynamics, if not better. Yes. And so there's all sorts of dynamics. It isn't always as simple as we would like it to be. But the good thing is that there is change, maybe not in the C-suite and maybe not at the board level as strongly and as quickly as we would like. But look at the number of women who run their own businesses.
Mm-hmm. And that's grown phenomenally.
Yeah, well, why do you think that is? And in my sort of strident approach to life, I've been called that, it's changed because I say, if I want to get involved in what you're doing and you don't want to let me in, this is a male, in the corporate world, and I've done this, is why I started my own business. Mm-hmm. If you don't want to let me in, that's okay.
Yes.
You hold on to what you have, and I wish you well with that, but I shall go off and make my own. Mm-hmm. And so more and more women, if they can't make progress,
yes,
in the corporate world or in the business world, then they're thinking, actually, I am good. I'm good at this. I'm good at A, B, or C, whatever it is. And I'm going to go and create my own. So this is the revolution that's been taking place over the last few years.
And that would explain the number of females owning their own businesses.
Yes.
And female entrepreneurs.
Yes.
And I have to say I fit into that category because I got to a point as a lawyer, I got to a point where I thought, actually, I don't want to be a partner in a law firm. I want my own law firm. But it's a brave thing to do, brave but stupid. I remember, Karen, people said to me when I set my law firm up, that's very brave and moody. And I said, is that a euphemism for stupid? Just tell me what you really think. No.
But there's a sense of feeling entitled, isn't there? I'm one of 4 children, and my parents were categoric about treating us all exactly the same. So 2 boys, 2 girls. We all had exactly the same treatment and pocket money and everything. And so I grew up with a sense that I was entitled. There was nothing that was going to stop me from doing what I wanted to do because my parents treated us all absolutely equally. And I think that's really, really important.
So when you hit the real world, Karen, and you realised that it wasn't an equal world out there, did it come as a bit of a shock? Was it a different experience? Go on.
I mean, when I hit the real world and went into the clothing industry, of course, that's absolutely dominated by women. So that was not a rude awakening at all, and there were women of power right across that business. When I came into sport, it was a very different situation. Yes, so you can see even with an amazing move in the numbers of women that the media are covering. In terms of their amazing sporting prowess, it's still nothing like the level of reporting of male sport. Nothing like, and so there's still massive imbalance.
And Nazrin?
I was going to sort of come back to the point that you both made, Sandra and yourself, in terms of, having that courage and determination and that drive to be able to, and having that self-belief to then set up your own company. What we do find, in terms of some of the feedback that we have, and I suppose it links to imposter syndrome, it's that ingrained, you had a very sort of, I suppose, a great upbringing that you were all treated equally. And, culturally, I know that my upbringing was very different, in terms of sort of it, men and women being treated sort of very differently, me from my brothers being treated very differently. And as a result of that, one of the things that was ingrained in us is sort of, to be very modest. In terms of women sort of being visible, there were great champions within the community that were doing an excellent role, but in terms of their visibility, it wasn't actually recognised. No. So one of the things in terms of women in leadership, what we do find is that the imposter syndrome kind of leaking in, and people don't necessarily recognise what that is. It affects both men and women.
So go on, tell us what for the benefit of our listeners, tell us what is the imposter syndrome?
Well, imposter syndrome, it's that thing that happens to us where despite having all of these talents, skills and gifts that we have, we almost then kind of, sort of feel that sort of, I suppose, that we're being a little bit fake, I think, so we start self-doubting. And it's when the self-doubts start creeping in that then has a real impact in terms of, I think, women applying for the senior leadership roles, because what they start doing is questioning their abilities. So even though somebody else might have recognized their talents, what they start doing is kind of feeling, and even when they've reached the top, I do find I coach a lot of people. You still, Sandra, you're nodding your head. You still find that coming in, where people are kind of doubting their talents, and you kind of question that because you think even at this stage, at this very senior level, you have that, sort of, happening to people.
But also there's this element of, we talked about owning and stepping into your leadership or your success, and women are quite reluctant to do that. There's a false modesty almost.
Yes.
And whereas guys will be quite,
I'll share a bit of research if you don't mind. There's a bit of research and it's been done over and over again. And they basically say if you have a man and a woman and they both have the same experience, skills, etc., qualifications, whatever it is, and they're both looking at a vacancy. They're looking at a job. The man will look at that job and the vacancy, and he'll say, "Well, I can probably do about 75 things listed on there. I'm going to go for it. I'll learn the rest." A woman will look at the same job description and she will say, "Well, I can do about 95, but that 5%, I can't do it, and they're going to find me out." And it's a different view. And what I think women need to realize more, that when someone's looking at taking you on in a position, they're not looking only at what you can currently do. They're looking at what you can grow into.
Yes.
So the man looking at, I can do 75%, I'll learn the 25%. Okay.
And so that's a mindset thing.
It's a mindset that women think that they have to be able to do everything perfectly. And in the back of their mind, if they've got that 5%,
they
or
won't
that
do
10%. Even if they do it, the imposter syndrome comes in because they think someone's going to find me out. Someone's going to realize I'm not really as good as I've been making out. And one day, someone's going to find me out, and they battle with that.
That's women being too hard on themselves. Any listeners out there, if you are thinking of applying for a job and you can do 75% of
50%,
even 50%, okay, 50%. Go for it, because every single job gives you the scope to learn on the job.
Absolutely.
And for those of you who follow LinkedIn and things, and you see Richard Branson, he will say you can learn on the job.
People employ people for potential.
Yes.
It is all about potential.
Well, and leadership isn't just about the skills that you have in technical terms. It's about your ability to lead people.
And
your ability to take them with you.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
It's enrolling people in your vision. And that's what leadership is actually about.
Yes.
Because you can be great technically at your job, but you may be a lone wolf and you may not have the ability to as you say, take people with you. And if you can't, you've got to have the passion and the energy that takes a team with you. It's a bit, you can talk about cricket on the pitch.
Well, I was just going to say, there's often people say that I can do any job in my organisation, and that's a badge of pride. I can't play cricket, but I can still lead a county cricket club because I have the management and leadership skills that I think are needed.
Well, there you go. So anybody listening out there, I think, Karen, that's testament to, absolute leadership in in a nutshell, really. I think that sums it all up, that you don't have to be able to do or deliver the product, if you like, because what is a county cricket club about? It's about cricket.
Yes.
But actually, it isn't just about cricket. It's about the business of cricket.
Yes.
And that's where Karen's leadership skills come in. But it's recognising that. And if you tell yourself, well, I know nothing about cricket, I can't do that, then you will be missing out on an opportunity. So that goes with anything, really. So our message out to our listeners, go for it. Our message is go for it.
Absolutely.
And you are probably more able than you believe you are.
There was a really good example. A CEO was talking to, and it was a male CEO, and he was, shared something with a female counterpart. And one of the things that she did was talk to him about a role, and sort of spent a lot of time saying, well, why she shouldn't apply for it. And he said, well, actually, in order to discount yourself out from that role, you have to be in it. You've got to apply in the first place.
Yes.
And so we do talk ourselves out of it.
Yes. And actually, I mean, I've said this on the radio before. Somebody shared something. It's go get the no.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
go and get it. It doesn't matter if you're not.
Be prepared to learn.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's about exposing yourself to the risk of success, isn't it?
Absolutely,
Yes.
not failure.
Yes.
Yes. And it's looking at it positively.
And some people are afraid of success.
How do you deal with
are.
success?
Yes, because that's a different level. It's a different kettle of fish.
And not everyone can handle success.
No.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
Go on.
and that's why you see, let's look at it, the lottery. People win the lottery, that is success for them. That's what they were after. But then they lose it all because it's not their comfort zone. They're not prepared to learn how to be different in a different space. So when we look at our progression, going for it, whatever that is for you, realize that a part of all of that is the journey of change.
So I'd just like to say at that point, hello to some of our viewers out there on Facebook Live. I've got Shameen Suleiman. So forgive me, I can't read very well at that distance. I've got Akil, who's on Facebook Live. I've got Hassan Hussein. I've got Suraya Adam and Nazmin. You're still there, so thank you for being engaged with us. Now let's come back to leadership and let's talk about styles of leadership. There are different styles of leadership, are there not? Mm-hmm. And Nazrin, can you tell us a little bit about the styles of leadership?
Well, traditionally, the style of leadership stems from, the military, where you've had that sort of dominant command and control based very much on a hierarchy, and it sort of stems from that. And over the years, what we found is that the, types of leadership has changed. We've got from sort of being very adaptive, situational leadership, and you find that a lot of the leadership that's, I suppose styles that have been written by men. And
Yes.
And we've kind of gone full circle. So we've kind of gone from shared leadership, which sits, I would say, quite comfortably with some women, because what they don't have to be is that dominant leader. They can sort of weave in and out.
Yes.
I think that might be a way of kind of describing it. Weave in and out of that, and that sits more comfortably. But I would say that we've kind of gone full circle, because now, everything that I kind of read, it's very much about authentic leadership, which is something that sort of comes from Bill George, when he described it, and it comes back to what I shared earlier, which is very much about connecting with people by being honest
And yourself. Be yourself.
Absolutely, it is that. And for some people, from all the examples that we've already shared here today, it's not that easy.
No.
It's not that easy, because to tune into yourself, there's a bit of vulnerability. There's a vulnerability that, that exposure, we talked about the success, and how that might not sit comfortably with people. But also vulnerability doesn't sit comfortably, and especially with men.
It's funny, isn't it, that thing about vulnerability, because I think it's an important part of your toolbox, if you like, being able to admit where you've made a mistake or you don't know something, and actually being completely open and honest about that, and behaving with integrity. For me, that's a really important part of establishing credibility as a leader. I don't know how to do that. Can you help me?
And ask for help.
Ask for help,
And it's, I think people forget that being a leader is about teamwork.
Yes.
Your job is to enroll everybody into the vision. But actually, one very important lesson is, if you're a leader, it's quite useful to have the rest of the people, smarter people than you in the room, because actually everybody has got a different skill to bring to the table. You can't do everything.
No. And I mean, we mentioned earlier offline, we were talking about the difference between leadership and management. And leadership, the leader is the person to inspire, to aspire, to set the objectives. Where are we going? You're the pioneer, you're the leader, you are the director of motion. Okay. How you get there is the job of managers.
Yes.
And your job as a leader is to enthuse the managers, listening to them, getting them on board, say, this is where we want to get to. How do you think we get here? Knowing their skills so that you manage them to achieve.
You're enabling them.
You enable them, you
Yes.
empower, you enlighten. It's about teamwork, it's about collaboration, it's about synergistic opportunities. It's all of those things. It's not about actually doing it all yourself.
Absolutely, because no leader
Yes.
can.
No leader can. And that's not the job of the leader.
No.
People understand
Yes.
leadership.
That's
Yes.
right. Absolutely right. And if we go back to, I mean, we talked about styles of leadership and autocratic and being authentic. So let me ask this question: Can you learn leadership,
I think so, definitely.
Yes.
or are people born leaders? Are people more drawn? Are there certain characteristics of people who are more leadership material than others?
Okay.
I think it's some and some.
Yeah.
And I think I'm a different employee as well as a different leader now than when I worked in the clothing industry, for example. In that environment, it's very much about particular kinds of output, particular kinds of behaviour. But over the years, I've learned how to moderate my own behaviour in order to do and achieve different things.
And that's a very valuable skill because actually, as a leader, if one style of leadership isn't achieving the results, you've got to have self-reflection
Yes.
and recognize that something's not working here, and that is a skill of a leader as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Having that insight is
Absolutely
is key.
agree. I mean, self-awareness, accountability, for yourself and for others. I think those are really key skills. And I think one of the things that we find, certainly in our work, the most effective leaders, the ones that have the most, I suppose, positive impact are the ones that are really self-aware. So they understand themselves, but they also understand others.
Yeah.
And they tune into that.
And actually having somebody that you are willing to listen to,
Yes.
and having somebody that you a confidant perhaps,
Yes.
who you can say, how did I do at that meeting, or did I do okay, or can I do that better? What where would I? Where can I do it better?
And some of the
How?
greatest leaders have coaches. That's what
They
that's
do.
what a
Mentors
coach
do.
is there for, to be a reflector,
Yes.
but to help you to achieve
The goal.
The goal.
Yeah.
Yes. To adjust you, change you to help you to
Achieve
achieve
the
the
goal.
goal. Yes.
No, absolutely valuable advice. Now we've got 1 minute and 45 seconds left, which is a really bad time to have left because I don't have enough time to ask you another question, and nor is that I don't need that amount of time to do my close. So are there any? I'm going to give you sort of 10 seconds each to give a tip to anybody who's listening out there.
Okay. Well, if you're starting with me, because you're looking at me,
10 seconds. Go on.
Believe in yourself and learn how to be you and how to do what you want to do.
Karen, tip.
Go back to basics.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I think you trust your own judgment, be authentic, and always go with what you know is the right thing to do.
Yes.
Nazrin.
Have courage and always be open to learning.
Thank you. Thank you to our guests.
You're
Thank you to
welcome.
Sandra
You're
Pollock.
welcome.
Thank you to Karen Rothery. And thank you to Nazrin Eesa. You've been listening to Leading Ladies on EAVA 102.5 FM. I'm going to briefly tell you about tomorrow's programme. I'm bringing to you an amazing programme tomorrow because I've got leading ladies of the future joining me. I've got a 10-year-old, I have a 16-year-old, and I have an 11-year-old in the studio they're all leading ladies of the future, and they're going to be talking to me. And I'm also going to have a co-presenter. I've got an 11-year-old co-presenting with me, so I'm hoping that I can generate some inspiration there for them. And after that, so that programme is from 11 till 12. From 12 till 1, I have another lawyers programme. I've got Glynis Wright, who is the new president of Leicestershire Law Society. I have got 2 award-winning lawyers. So I have got Gina Samuel Richards and I have got Hannah Fountain. And finally, I've got Malvika Jagan Mohan, a former Leicester High student. Please join me tomorrow.